Welcome to the dumbest smart guy podcast on the planet. This is the Central Unintelligence Podcast.
All right, it's going. We're good. I think everything's going good. Oh, hey, that sounds kind of good. All right, here we are, back again for the Central Unintelligence Podcast, episode number 16. As always, I'm Josh. I'm one of your hosts. I'm here with Frank.
Yep.
And also here with Adam.
Howdy. Yeah.
Yeah, and here we are. So, a couple things we want to talk about today. Let me readjust myself. There we go. One of them being just kind of a general topic regarding espionage, talking about some of that kind of stuff, and spying and espionage, I guess, right? And then
Sponsored by SpyX Family.
sponsored by them, plus the CIA, more than likely, maybe the NSA as well. A little bit of that in there. Also, talking about some China stuff today, specifically involving here in America, and I'm a little perturbed by this.
Perturbed. Definition of perturbed?
Disturbed, worried, angered, somewhere around there. I don't know.
Translation.
What do you mean? Translation. I don't fucking know. It sounds nice. All right?
Translation. We pissed as fuck.
Yeah.
Angered.
This is a word of the day. Perturbed. If one of us can use that in a sentence before the end of the episode.
Again, like we need to use it again.
Yeah, it's we should make that a goal to try to increase our lexicon, our vocabulary,
And utilize better words.
Yeah, so we don't say like. All right, let's go.
All right.
Like,
Anyways.
let's go.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that has happened is they had this summit regarding Asian nations or some shit like that, and they had it in San Francisco, okay, which is right here.
For some weird reason.
I wouldn't say it's for
no.
some weird reason.
Yeah, no, it's an obvious reason.
I mean, anyways, basically, in the few weeks leading up to this fucking thing, the San Francisco streets have been changed in a way that hasn't been changed in decades, even. And one of the things that they do is San Francisco has a shit ton of homeless. All right, not gonna lie.
Cool to the homeless.
Yeah. They're homeless. There's a lot of homeless there. There's a lot of shit, literally shit in the streets.
Feces, fecal matter.
Yeah, human feces. There's a lot of.
Do you remember that one app they made to locate all the spots that had it so you can avoid it? And they had to shut it down because it was overloading the servers.
Yeah, it was literally breaking the servers with how fucking much they have. How many people reporting the shit in the streets?
Was that one guy? I forgot his name, but he's like a world-renowned like traveler. He travels around the world with documentaries and shit. He says, "I've been to the Taj Mahal. I've seen the indigenous people of the Philippines, of the Amazon River, and all that stuff. He's talking about all the things he's done in his world, but only in San Francisco did I ever step in human shit."
I mean, that's a very true point. One of the things the thing that perturbs me is that old boy Gavin Newsom, the governor of California,
Basically our Trudeau.
yeah, he's basically the Californian Trudeau. And he has this press conference because everybody was talking shit about, hey, how come all of a sudden we see these crews going out and literally before and after pictures, one street, just tents all over the sidewalks. You have to walk in the street if you're walking on the sidewalk. And there's just shit everywhere. There's just trash. It's just everywhere. Literally the next week, it's all cleaned and gone. And so somebody asked him, hey, what's with all of a sudden, why are we caring and getting rid of this stuff when before, for the people who live here, it was essentially, who cares? Oh, you need to be nice to the homeless. We need to respect them and let them stay. And so Newsom literally says,
They go back to doing what they
in
do.
the press conference, oh, yeah, it would seem that the reason why we're cleaning this up is because we're having this conference and because Xi Jinping, the Chinese president, is coming here. And it would seem that way. And he says, do you want to know why it seems that way? Because that's exactly what it is. That is the words he used, was that this is the exact reason why we're cleaning it up, is because Xi Jinping, the president of China, is coming here for this stupid ass summit. And he's meeting with Biden.
You can't fault the guy for cleaning up the streets when his boss is coming to visit.
That's the point that I'm trying to make, Frank, is that is just like it seems they cleaned it up for this because of the reason was because of Xi Jinping coming. It also now seems like the reason why they did that is because Gavin Newsom reports to Xi Jinping. He met with him in China recently, which is also fucking disturbing. Why is a sitting governor of a state in the United States of America meeting with a foreign, not just a foreign dignitary, but the president or leader of essentially our greatest enemy? The number one list on the bad guys or the threats to America that exists currently right now, China is at the top.
Did you see they were showing all the people that paid to be able to sit next to him?
Uh-huh.
Do you know who got the seat right next to him?
No.
Tim Cook.
From who? From Xi Jinping?
What?
That was sitting next to Xi Jinping?
Yeah.
Huh? Well, I mean, most of the shit's made in fucking China.
I'm just saying.
So, of course, the number one company in America that sells the number one cell phone that makes it in China, of course they're going to kiss ass and do whatever they got to do to continue that relationship with them so they can continue to make record profits.
But you know who else was at that table?
Who else was at that table?
The president of Boeing.
Well, China also orders a shit ton of 747s. And Boeing sells them to them.
But they're also one of our biggest military conscriptions.
Yeah, that platform.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's what Air Force One is, right? Air Force One is a Boeing 747, right?
No, it's the bigger one. The
767?
yeah, something like that.
Or the 777? Well, either way, it's kind of it's a similar platform. It's just smaller. But yet, that's what they have it. They have it. They're selling it off in record numbers. So it very much upsets me when I see our own leadership here in specifically in California, let's just say, because obviously that's specific to us. But it's upsetting to see them bending and kowtowing to the Chinese government. And also, well, let me just finish this thread, I guess. It's upsetting to me because why wouldn't they clean this shit up for their own people? The people who, again, the taxpayers, the people who pay for all of these services to be done for the Chinese, which is that's how they paid for it, was with taxpayer money. So why did it have to take some bullshit like that to get them to clean it up? Why didn't they just say, hey, you know what? This has gotten too far out of hand. We need to do something about this. Because people shouldn't be stepping in shit. Human shit, literally. But yet, when the Chinese come to town, we'll go ahead and clean it up for them. And now that the Chinese are leaving town, I'm sure they'll let it just go right back to the way it fucking was until the Chinese return. So it's disturbing to me when that happens. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but
I
I mean, do you even have an opinion?
Not really. No.
You don't care.
Not really.
No.
Nah.
All right. Well, fair enough, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, this was your subject. So.
Yeah, it was, and I'm just curious to know what your thoughts were. Another thing that kind of upsets me with this too is just the level of. I saw videos, and I'm sure people have seen the videos because they're out there, of the whole delegation of Xi Jinping and everybody coming through the streets. And yeah, he had a full police, escort and all that stuff. But on the streets, there was literally this array of Chinese flags and just all these people waving Chinese flag, all this shit, right? Now, granted, I'm sure most of them were paid to be there, but they were very much keeping out the other side to that. The people that were protesting the Chinese, because there was a large contingent of people out there that were, representatives of the Uyghurs. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but the people that are being persecuted by the Chinese government, There were people who are expatriates of China that have come here and have said like, hey, this government is fucked and they do a lot of horrible fucking human rights violations. There was a lot of people there to protest them because unlike in China, we are allowed to do that here. But since the Xi Jinping was coming here, they had heavy security, and no one who was not carrying a pro-Chinese thing or a pro-Chinese flag was allowed on the route at all. They were actively booting them off.
Someone that snuck in the flag, though.
Yeah, I did see one. What was it? What was the flag? The
US flag.
Yeah, there was one little. You can't even really tell what it was though. You just could see it wasn't a Chinese flag, but that was good to see. Someone snuck it in, but it still pisses me off that here we have all these freedoms to do these things, to protest our own government, but then when someone from another government comes along that we are, I don't know, whatever, kissing his ass. I don't know what the purpose of this whole thing was. But then when they come along, our rights to do that are, oh, well, you can't do that because they don't allow that there. So now you can't do it here while they're here. You got to wait till they leave or go do it in another spot. We can't let them see that dissent is allowed here, even though it is. It just infuriates me. So, anyways, I guess if anybody else has anything to say about it, we can keep going. But that's all I have to say, I guess, at this point regarding the China, well, the Chinese and them coming to California.
The barricades were interesting.
They were interesting. What was interesting about the barricades?
Well, I mean, when it comes to foreign countries and their leaders coming to our country, right? Mm-hmm. For the most part, it's usually, police escorts or maybe their own personal bodyguards and shit like that. But for this specific case, I've never seen anything like it. To have barricades specifically for this summit or whatever it was, it seems like it went the extra mile when in other cases, police escorts and I don't know if it's Secret Service or just bodyguards in general would just suffice. But a barricade, dude, like that's interesting.
Yeah, that was very interesting that they put up all those barricades along the route that they were
I don't know what that really means in context. Like, I don't know if that's just...
Well, to me, I guess I would take that as they know that we're allowed to have guns, that we're allowed to... So if anybody was going to assassinate this dude, it'd probably be here. Because in China, you don't have that worry. Or when you're in a lot of other countries, you don't have that worry because when people are pissed off and they leave and they emigrate from China, where do they usually go? They usually come here to America because they go from having no freedoms to basically all the freedoms.
Or Canada.
Yeah, or Canada, even though they have less freedoms in here. But you come to America because you can have all the freedoms and all the opportunity. But if you come here, then now the president of China's here and you go, I was wronged by this fella back when I was in China, or maybe he had my family killed, or who knows? So I can imagine that there's a lot of people that don't like that dude that would be quite angry and have the means to do something about it that live here in the United States.
Yes.
So I would say that that's probably where they were coming from in terms of putting up extra security or whatever you want to call it.
I feel like it's Occam's razor. Where it's like
Occam's razor?
The simplest solution or the simplest conclusion is the one.
I'm sure that's probably
that. Realistically, the reason they brought barricades was for the purpose of maybe not so much somebody was actually going to assassinate Xi Jinping, but mainly for the safety, the general safety of all of these world leaders being transported through the streets of San Francisco, and not really anything more. But for me personally, it seems excessive to have barricades. It was just very strange. Very strange.
Yeah, it was very odd.
I'm not partial to anything you were saying previously, but just that subject alone of the fucking barricades, that seeing those pictures of that was just kind of takes you back a little bit.
Yeah, it does. But anyways, all right. Well, that's kind of I guess all we have to say about that. Frank, you got anything else to say about that topic? No.
I don't want to be canceled.
What do you mean you don't want to be canceled?
He wants.
I don't mean canceled socially. I mean
canceled from life. Oh, like the Chinese will come assassinate us?
Sure.
You want to? You're gonna be unsubscribed from life.
Yeah, you're gonna be unfollowed.
We all know what. We all know
Blocked
what,
and reported
what
from
person
life.
to make that happen.
Blocked and reported from life.
Yeah, true.
All right, so
Anyways, all right. So does it, before we get into this, the espionage portion of this, does anybody have any other stuff they want to talk about as in relation to anything, any other topic? At this point?
I don't know.
Since we know the CIA listens to us,
Yeah.
can they do something about the guy who's controlling the weather machine because he's fucking up all our weather here?
That's a very good point. And maybe the CIA doesn't control it, but they could get control of it, I would imagine.
Weather is fucked. So I'm assuming the government's involved somehow because it's not working right.
Right. But, yeah. Maybe they could do something about it. I don't know. Maybe, I'll have to put in a ticket with them and see what they do. Put in a maintenance ticket and see if they can take care of it.
I'm sure they'll get to it. Right to it.
I'm sure they'll get right on it, yeah. Yeah. So,
Why do I keep getting updates from Twitter about Illinois and their weather?
I don't know. Maybe they want you to move to fucking Illinois. Anyways, all right. So
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I know we're talking about espionage, but the subject of espionage kind of, I don't know if it's exclusive to the Cold War. So I don't know if this should just broadly be about the Cold War.
I mean, I think probably, but I was going to give a little bit of background, on a couple of things.
Espionage was a huge part. Is a huge part in every war, not just recent times.
But the height of it, I guess, for yeah.
I mean, that's by.
I mean, the height in modern times, I guess.
That's only by like our perspective.
I guess for America,
yeah.
the height of espionage was probably the Cold War because that's literally all it was. I mean, it was literally a war that was being fought in the shadows through espionage and subversion. Yeah,
KGB.
Yeah.
All right, what do you got?
Give us
the lore.
One of the interesting things that obviously espionage has existed pretty much forever, right? That's kind of been a thing. The first documented case of espionage, essentially, was during the Hammurabi king era, which was like, I couldn't even pin it down to a year because it was like,
what is it like?
Like it was several thousand years ago BC, and so basically it was a document that was the first time in recorded history that it was classified, and there was a spy that was within the court of the king who stole the document, edited it to say something different, and then it changed the way that they responded to certain things. So that was essentially the first documented case of espionage.
What country was this for?
It was in the kingdom, the king of Hammurabi, which was like a middle. It's like a Middle Eastern kind of. Let me see if Babylon. It's in the Babylonian era.
Okay.
So it's kind of in that Middle Eastern, African, Northern Africa kind of deal.
All right.
So that was like the first case, essentially, of that. And the understanding or the generalization that espionage is critical or is something that is definitely necessary in any format of warfare, it wasn't actually documented in thesis until Sun Tzu in The Art of War. That was the first recorded, written down thing saying, hey, this is not only critical during warfare, but it's also critical during peacetime as well. Because really, I mean, some of your best espionage, and really the Cold War was technically during peacetime. Mm-hmm. So some of your best espionage can come out of quote-unquote peacetime happenings. Because, maybe your enemies are kind of getting lackadaisical. They're not really like paying attention too much. And you can go steal all their secrets so that when your next conflict happens between the two of you, oh man, you already got their whole playbook. You already know what the fuck they're going to do.
Yeah.
You're already fucking 10 steps ahead of them. So those were the... And espionage has existed basically in every conflict. It was in the Civil War. It was in the Revolutionary War, at least in terms of America, obviously. Spying and spycraft has existed in many different ways. And it's kind of like that thing with... what is it? The thing where there's like 7 major plots, and every story boils down to like 7 major plots. Every single major plot has existed throughout history, and it's just been redone and redone. That's kind of how it is with spying. Now, granted, as technology enhances, there's different applications for that, but kind of the generalistics of espionage and spying have already been done throughout history. It's just them retooling them and making them effective in modern times, essentially, is kind of what it seems like. So during the Revolutionary War, there was a lot of. Oh, you have something to say?
No.
Oh, all right. It's just even something as simple as intercepting messages, right? Nowadays, we have obviously the internet, so a lot of our spycraft has turned into digital formats, where instead of having a guy whose job it was to go find the courier who was carrying the message to intercept them, now there's a digital thing that finds the digital courier and intercepts the message, takes it, and then sometimes doesn't even no one even knows that it was taken, that it was viewed. And that is if we're talking about back in the day when they did the messages by bird or courier or whatever, on horseback, it's crazy that, man, if the guy who was the courier was on the take and was a double agent or was working for both sides or whatever, you could all your secrets that you're sending could be known to the enemy, but then you would never know that they were even having any idea of what was going on, because this guy's not going to be like, oh yeah, I showed them the documents. Or even if he gets captured and the documents are stolen but still delivered from another guy that they don't know who he is because he's going to a different location, obviously. So, there's a lot of crazy shit that goes on. A lot of the crazy projects that have happened over the years with this, like the CIA in particular, I guess, and then the what are they? The British ones, the MI6. Yeah,
whatever James Bond is.
Yeah. I think that they've done a lot of crazy shit over the years, and obviously we'll probably talk about some of those things with in relation to the Cold War. I mean, obviously we got tons of. Well, anyways, what did you have anything specific you wanted to bring up, Adam?
Shit, there's a ton, but
yeah,
it kind of sucks because I didn't really take
notes.
I was watching this documentary to kind of get some interesting talking points, but I don't want to use this time to search up specific people and names and shit, but something I wasn't really all that familiar with was the OSS being the predecessor to the CIA.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the OSS stands for. I think it's like
the Office of Secret Services, I think, is what it was called. Or Strategic Services. The Office of Strategic Services, I think is what it actually stood for.
Yeah, and then there was one other thing. Shit. I don't want to give out false information, but there was another office. It was called like the Office of Policy Coordination, and it was specifically named that because it was supposed to undermine people's suspicion about what the thing was. Like, it was, it's a benign name, but what they actually did was like the CIA things. Like they
they were doing spying and shit, but then nobody knew what it was.
But yeah, so there was this one interesting thing, maybe to start off, kind of like the Cold War, I suppose. If you can cover for me for a second.
Yeah, well, one of the things with the naming, right? So in Vietnam, we had the Special Forces, kind of a CIA type deal, the MAC-V SOGs, and those were like the A-teams or whatever you want to call them, and they would go into the border of Laos and Cambodia, and they would go do all kinds of crazy secret squirrel shit and attack the Viet Cong when they were over in those safe haven countries, secretly. And it literally stood for Military Assistance Command Vietnam Studies and Observations Group. It was literally masqueraded as a science division. And so everything that came out of them, the Russians and the Vietnamese that intercepted anything, they were just kind of like, whatever, this is just some science bullshit. We don't care. But really, they were literally going cross-border and basically conducting illegal operations because we were not at war with Laos and Cambodia, but they would go across the border into these one-way missions almost, and these super high-end missions that they would take out, generals or other just forces over there, and they would conduct those operations there in a completely clandestine and secret manner, and all under the guise of this is the science unit, basically, is what they were under the guise of, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah. So there was this article that was written by this guy named George F. Kennan. Mm-hmm. It was called the thing was written in a Morse code.
Like
a telegram. Like
yeah.
That. It was called the X article, but the actual title was like the sources of Soviet conduct. So this guy researched the Soviet Union itself and how they operated, what that whole lifestyle entailed, like what their motivations might be. So he kind of spelled that out, and that kind of gave the U.S. an idea of what that country was like, because it's kind of like that environment was kind of like a closed system, because
it was like a closed loop system,
and that only was exacerbated with like the Berlin Wall to make sure that people couldn't come in, but also keeping people within the whole Soviet Union, right? They couldn't escape. But it was just kind of like a interesting article that was written that just further elaborated on the Soviet Union itself. But so when the CIA was created in order to counter communism and spreading to other countries, the CIA was created, right?
Right. Yeah.
One of their first missions, or one of the first things they did, was I guess there was a growing communist party or communist movement within Albania, and that was their first target. And basically what they did to subvert that movement was they paid people to have like an opposition party or whatever.
Yeah.
And they only spent like $200,000 for that whole operation to take place. And eventually they did remove the person, or rather they overtook that party. So, and then there was another instance when it came to the Italians just after World War II, where there was another growing communist party that was seeking to take power within the Italian government.
Yeah.
And the U.S. did another instance of, subverted tactics.
Right,
too.
yeah.
So, I don't know. That shit was just kind of interesting.
One of the things that I think is interesting about the CIA is one of their specialties is essentially, now, whether they succeed or fail all the time is fucking up for debate, I guess. But one of the specialties that they do is literally going down to a country that we don't like and subverting and attempting to overthrow their government. And during like especially the Cold War era with the Soviet deal, when we were going up against and fighting the communists, that was one of the things they did all the time, was they would go down to the Central American, South American, East Asian countries that were courted by the Russians to join up in the communism flag. And they would basically say, hey, we can't just let them walk all over these guys and just convert them to communism. We need to do something about this. So then they would go over there and they would fund a freedom party or whatever you want to call it, and they would just try to overthrow their government or do whatever, or get them to be at least doing damage. Now, they weren't successful all the time. Yeah. There's plenty of failed coups that the CIA was responsible for, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But the fact that they would go in and just do it at all is that's the specialty, is just going in and doing that.
It feels like the cheapest method to subvert an enemy that could be created in the future.
Yeah, because you're taking out their needs.
You're right from the beginning.
From the get-go, yeah. You're not even giving them a chance.
So it almost makes sense, like, if you're what you're talking about when it comes to espionage, you don't wait around for another world war to spawn.
Right, yeah.
You want to take care of the problems as they're happening. You want to have as much intel on everybody as things are happening in peacetime, so that if those things escalate, which they probably shouldn't, because if the CIA comes into play with trying to arm people or distribute information to try to overtake a government or to install people as new leaders and shit, like, that's how you stop a world war, is to do those type of things, to cut people at their fucking knees, or cut enemies at their knees.
And honestly, I kind of think that's part of the reason why we've been so dominant over the last, basically post World War II, is because we had this organization going around and subverting every single fucking country that could potentially be our enemy, or countries that were even friendly to us. We're subverting them in ways just to ensure that they don't become an enemy.
But I will add that I don't remember what specific instance it was, but this documentary that I was watching was pointing out that as good as we thought we were, the Russians were far better, because since the days of the Tsars, Russia has always been, not always, rather since that time, it's been in a state of surveillance always.
Yeah.
That they use people to get them to squeal or to get information, or you would just disappear if you were against the state itself,
right? Yeah,
things like that. So they were already doing that shit before we were doing that. Like, and the CIA serves as what, like the president's personal arm, or how would you word it?
Well, I would say that the CIA's main function is foreign intelligence gathering.
Yeah,
and
I want to say they serve the president. JFK learned that the hard way.
I mean,
I guess for like the KGB, they're more proactive, not only like as far as foreign intelligence goes, but also domestic affairs.
So so that's one of the things the CIA's mandate is. They're not allowed to operate legally within the United States. That's the FBI's job. So we created our internal state police being the FBI, whereas the KGB was both the foreign spying apparatus as well as the domestic surveillance apparatus.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that you're right about. Since the time of the Tsar, once the communist revolution happened, post fucking, when was that? Post World War I, or right around that time, the 1917 era.
Yeah, it's probably like the 1920s, the Bolshevik
right.
Revolution.
It was like in the 20s. It was like post World War I. So when that happened, ever since then, it's either you're with us or you're against us, and we're gonna find out if you're fucking against us, and we're gonna do something about it.
I mean, there's a parallel between since that started to what there is now. I mean, there's videos of people holding signs in Red Square, opposing the government. There's people, there's plants, there's fucking cells waiting around to find out who's speaking out against the government. If you get a whiff of it in your ear, if you're anything like that, if you're holding up a sign, they're gonna know, and you're gonna disappear. That's the end of the story.
and it's the honeypot fucking aspect of it, where it's they're having their own people try to attract the people who are the government detractors, so then they can identify them and say, who's okay, now we know who you are, and now we're gonna get you. Whereas like we do the same thing here, we just do it in a different manner. Where if you look at all those, that January 6th stuff or whatever, and if you look at, it was hilarious because there's like a fucking picture of like all these dudes that literally look like they're undercover fucking FBI agents. They're all wearing the same khaki shorts and like dark blue polo shirt, and they have the wrap shade, the government issued wrapped fucking black shades. And it's like, oh, that's clearly a honeypot operation right there. That is clearly dudes getting people from the internet to meet up and then showing up, and then when they're all there, it's like, oh, cool. Well, the one guy, we've arrested him, and now we got him, even though we kind of convinced him to fucking do almost this shit anyways. But yeah, we do a lot of the same shit. It's like there's a meme I saw the other day that was like, oh, there is a e-girl CIA agent trying to convince an FBI soy boy to commit acts of domestic terrorism.
Yeah, I seen that meme. It's I think it's like they're it's panel to panel, because it's like one person's in another location, another one, but they're like typing on the computer waiting for them to.
He's like, no, you do the domestic terrorism. He's like, oh no, you. Oh come on, it'll be so hot, ooh ooh. And then he's like, oh yeah, what ooh. Like, it's fucking, I'm like, yeah, I'm sure that's exactly I'm sure that's happening right now as we speak. But yeah, like you said, we do the same shit they do. We just do it in a different way.
Yeah, and there was a couple cases, don't remember which specific ones there were, but the Russians knew that they basically told like the army or whatever governing body that was in alliance with like the communist party of like Russia or whatever, that they fed them that intel, so they knew who the plants were from the U.S., and they ended up getting killed. And there was like several instances of that where the U.S. agents went in there thinking that they were going to overthrow the government, and they got set up and they fucking died. Yeah, and then as a part of the CIA is that this whole thing is supposed to be not traced back to the U.S. president.
They have the black stars when you come into their building.
What?
When you walk into Langley, there's a wall full of black stars, and those are all the agents they lost, but they can't name them.
They can't name, So I mean, basically, you can't. This shit can't be traced back to the president, and there's no record of like the budgets.
Right,
there's no record of the people that were involved in shit.
That was the whole thing with the black file, where was it the FBI found the CIA started the whole cartel thing.
Oh yeah.
That's how they got their funding, was by hoping the cartels sell drugs in America.
Yeah. And and I do think that, yes, we need an organization that does this shit. We have to have it. But there's got to be a line. There's got to be like a hard line. Now, them going out and creating their own budgets, doing that, it's a little iffy. But if they're not out there doing that, as long as they're doing the right thing to keep the country safe. Now, granted, we haven't had another 9/11 since then, but should we have had 9/11 in the first place? Shouldn't they have fucking been on top of that shit? You know, theoretically.
That's
I don't know.
That's a question. I don't know if we'll.
I don't think we have the answer for it.
Yeah.
It's just a question, though.
Yeah.
But again, I do think that type of government agency, that foreign intelligence gathering, and really, I'm okay with the CIA spying on people here as long as they're foreigners, right? Because technically, they're foreign.
That's kind
don't
of
spy on me.
That's kind of
the average Joe.
That's kind of discriminative. Is it discriminative?
Well, that's what the
discriminatory.
FBI, well, if they find anything on American discriminatory, I guess
discriminatory.
Yeah, discriminatory.
Yeah.
It's not, because the CIA is only supposed to deal with people
that are
outside
foreign
our country.
Right. They can't do any. They're not allowed to. Now, I'm sure they do, but they're not allowed technically to do any domestic operations. They're only supposed to do foreign shit. So if they find anything and say, "Hey, we found out about this guy who's in the U.S.," they're supposed to pass that shit on to the FBI, because it's like, "Hey, you're supposed to go ahead and take this route." Now, granted, there have been several times throughout history of the CIA that they've obviously been caught doing fucking projects here, and they've been doing weird fucking testing and operations and shit within the American borders. So
yeah, so not to
yeah, no, good.
To feel like we're going off on a tangent a bit. Not to say we can't revisit it, but I still want to stick to.
Oh yeah, good.
Just a bit after World War II, but
if I can also say something real quick. I was watching again the Joe Rogan podcast, and he had that one fool on there. You know what I'm talking about? The guy who's like, he was in the military, then he left and became a CIA agent. He has hair like Adam, kind of.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. I don't know what his name is though.
He was talking about his time in the CIA, and he said, "You know what's funny? We can train guys for years to be the best spy. We can turn people. We can do all that. But the best person that we have ever turned is the copy repairman."
The what? The copper?
The copy repairman.
Copy repairman.
For copy machines?
Yeah.
Because we turned one of those guys, and you couldn't believe the information we were getting from him. And all he had to do was go in there, because, every embassy in the world has a copy or fax machine. And they're not vetting those guys because it's the copy repairman. And so all he has to do is go in. We have to just wait. Once the machine breaks down, he goes in, puts a little device in there for us, and now we have all the information coming and going out of that embassy right at our fingertips.
Man, I would have pinned it for the janitor. Like a janitor.
Yeah, those are good ones too, because they have access to generally everything.
If you see a janitor playing around with the copy repair machine, that's going to raise suspicion. You see the copy repairman working on the copy repair machine.
Right. Well, but think about this too. Okay, the janitors at pretty much every place that has a janitorial staff, who's got access to basically every fucking room in the facility?
Yes, but
janitors.
Yes, I get that what you're saying, but
janitors are not out of place.
No, but the second he's doing something that's out of a place, yes, that's when it's going to raise alarms.
Well, but see, this is the thing. They're usually there after hours when no one's there, doing the cleaning in the middle of the night. They're usually there. Also, if someone were to find them in, let's say, like, a special agent's office, I'm cleaning this up. I'm taking out the trash. I'm doing whatever. They have access to do whatever they want.
And you have plausible deniability.
True.
If you were gathering
intel,
confidential information, or I was just throwing this away. I didn't know I couldn't do that. You have plausible deniability.
That's true. But
but the way that, but the way it works with the CIA, let's say the CIA and the FBI, once even if you can say, I was just clean, doesn't matter. Something happened. All cleaners of that level are fired. That's it. You're done. Whereas the copy repair machine guy, he's gonna go in there and do his shit, and then No one's ever going to second guess that.
I could see that. Yes, if they just specifically wanted to get any information that was being sent in or out of the thing.
The thing I'm trying to say is you can't burn that copy repairman if he's doing his job. If you want the janitor to steal information, you burn that janitor.
All right, but it's very limited because the copy repair machine guy can just stick the shit in the copy repair machine and put the device so that you can then it transmits you all the shit that they're copying and even faxing, I'm sure, because the copy machine is also usually the fax machine. So you're receiving and you're getting all the received copies or faxes, all the sent faxes that they're sending. And back before the email thing, that was the main way that embassies would communicate with each other was they would fax it. They'd fax shit over. So I think, yeah, in terms of getting that one specific type of thing, that's the best fucking thing you could get. I still think that overall, potentially a janitor, because a janitor has access to get multiple different types of intelligence gathering, not just specifically the information coming in and out of the copy machine or fax machine, I guess.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that they fucking had a wealth of information. And again, no one would ever fucking suspect, like you said, because, well, it's just the copy. He's doing his job. He's fixing the copy. But then the only thing that sucks, Esther, not anymore. The only thing that sucks, though, is you would have to wait until something happened with the copy machine.
Yeah.
Like, you just got to wait. So, like, you really can't do shit until they have a problem with their copy machine.
As somebody who has to work in an office, our fucking copy machine has to be fixed at least once every month. They're surprisingly delicate machines. And I had a coworker whose dad is actually a copy repairman, and he was getting paid $40 an hour.
Yeah,
because it happens so often. So it's not these copy machines don't break down like every day, but they do break down.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I imagine because like okay, where I have we have this fucking copy machines or whatever, and that thing is bulletproof, man. That thing, and I imagine that's the type of that quality of copy machine.
Industrial strength.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's like an industrial strength copy machine and fax machine. I imagine that's the kind of shit that would be like at the government facility that, oh, this shit ain't gonna break down. Or at least here in the United States, I feel like we would have a guy that already works there that is the copy machine guy and that's all he fucking does. Whereas in other countries, yeah, they're contracting that shit out. They're just like, oh yeah, just call the copy machine company and they're gonna come. Which is probably why we were able to get so much shit because all those other countries, they don't have copy machine guys. They just fucking farm it out to another country. And then what would be interesting is when we started doing that and it was successful, did we then stop contracting out copy machine guys and just saying, no, we need to hire guys in full background checks and
we're falling for our own trick.
Yeah, we're not gonna fall for our own fucking shit. Because that is, and who knows? Maybe everybody else, people had already been doing that before then. You know, who knows? Which is fucking crazy. But yeah, man, all for fucking copy machines. That's fucking crazy. Anyways,
fuck, I'm trying to find that fucking joke from the Office Space when that guy, Michael Bolton.
Yeah,
he's like something loading error. What the fuck does that mean? Yeah. Can't remember the fucking name of the specific error code, but anyways,
yeah, I was looking up like other funny shit that the CIA has done throughout the years, or stuff that I at least found funny.
Yeah,
and so a couple of them. One of them was called Operation Midnight Climax, and it was basically primarily it was in San Francisco, but they did it throughout many other cities in the United States. Basically, they would get these hookers, they would pay them money, and they would say, hey, we're going to pay you whatever money. You get your guys on the street. You bring them back to this hotel room. And before you guys do anything, you take this little dropper and you drop it in some water and you give it to them to drink. And then you can leave. And basically, it was just this whole thing set up that they just basically tested the mind control effects of LSD. Like, that was the whole purpose of it, was they were trying to figure out if they could get somebody. They were trying to use it initially as like a truth serum because they were heavily trying to see, if you could inject somebody and then ask them a question, would they be able to, would it make them tell the truth? And so they were like testing it on that. And then they were just testing to see what the general effects of in using it for like some kind of mind control type shit. If you could get somebody on LSD, if you could get them to do shit for you.
Well, wasn't that what MK Ultra was for?
This one was
to make them psychic.
Yeah, MK Ultra also was mainly about like, it was like psychic shit too. It was like mind control and like psychic shit. And I think this was kind of a little bit of a predecessor to, this was like the light version of MK Ultra. It was like the entry level to it. And then it eventually turned into, fucking MK Ultra or whatever. And then basically there was another one. It was called Operation Acoustic Kitty. And basically what they did is, funnily enough, they did it on an Asian. It was like an Asian person that they were trying to spy on. And they were trying to figure out how to get somebody in to where they needed to go. And one of the guys noticed that there was these fucking cats that just kept coming in and out. And they would go in there. The guys would be petting them. The dude would be having meetings, and these cats would be in there. They're these like feral cats. So they basically finagled a listening device to the cat and said, all right, go in there and fucking get the fucking information. And I mean, obviously it didn't really work because cats don't do what the fuck they're told. So like basically the cats that they outfitted went in there like 1 or 2 times, and then that was it. They just fucking bounced. And so,
you know what? I think I heard about that because there was there was one other instance where they armed this kitty with like the tail was the antenna, and there was all kinds of recording equipment attached to it, like within its abdomen or whatever. But then when they sent it out, and it fucking died because it got ran over. So they didn't even get started with it.
It just got hit by a car.
Yeah, and then there was other things that they were trying to do with assassinating Fidel Castro. Like they were thinking
exploding cigar.
Replacing cigars with some kind of chemical that would kill them, or exploding cigars, or what was another thing? Oh, putting what was it? Seashells. They wanted. I don't know why they thought of that one, because it's like that's a really specific instance for Fidel Castro to be walking down the beach and like this seashell having an explosive device. So they're waiting for him to like come around to fucking. So I don't know. That was just some of the weird shit that they were trying to come up with to kill Fidel Castro. I guess more on a serious note, getting back to like just after World War II and the Berlin Wall and shit.
Yeah.
I guess there was the U.S. because we were occupying Germany on the western end, and of course
West Germany, West Germany, and
East Germany.
East.
And then there was the East Germans that were occupied by the Russians and shit.
Yeah.
That's how we got Converse shoes, right? I mean, not Converse. What was it? Puma and somebody else.
Puma and Adidas. Adidas was I think
that was the original company the two of them put together.
Yeah.
But then when they got separated, the other brother made Adidas.
One of them sided with I think the Russians or some shit. So there was like a 15 I think it was like 15 miles that the US dug holes to find out like where their phone lines like for the Russians were. So they were wiretapping, but the Russians didn't care because they already knew
that
they were doing that. But just some kind of just one of those interesting little tidbits about I guess Germany during that time is that the US was trying to wiretap, but the Russians were like, we already know that shit. We already know that shit, player.
Yeah. Good looking out, player. We already know that.
Imagine what they were doing. It was like they're feeding them dumb shit. Like they're feeding them.
Oh yeah,
they're sending them off to like
on wild goose chases, blatantly false shit. Like and that's one of the things too about espionage, or I guess we're talking about the CIA, is that's kind of their whole thing is to have the absolute most outside of the box fucking thinking that you could possibly have. It is unconventional. It's as unconventional as unconventional gets. And, it's some of this weird shit that happens that I kind of think that over time, it just depends on who you have in charge and stuff. But if you've got like the cat thing, right? Who knows what happened with those guys? But if they had some boss that was an asshole and just fucking fired them because, oh man, you guys did this stupid thing. But what if it would have worked? Like, you should be encouraging those guys to continue doing ridiculous shit, because one of these days, one of them's going to be right.
Yeah.
And would you rather have that guy working for the other team or doing some other bullshit? Nah, man.
Well, it always reminds me of that fucking guy, who makes our radar system? Is it Raytheon or is it?
I'm sure it's Raytheon or a subdivision of Raytheon.
Yeah, because when they were devising the current standard, whatever, the standard that we still follow to this day for a radar.
Yeah.
They were all making like, they're saying this, and that. And then one guy says, well, can they detect cardboard? And they locked him out of the building. They fired him. They got rid of him.
Yeah.
And then later on this year, last year, Australia started giving them cardboard drones to Ukraine to use because they started using them as bombers.
Yeah.
And then now the U.S. can't find that guy. They're trying to figure out, wait, he had a point about the cardboard. Because now we don't know if cardboard is detectable by our radar. But it's definitely not detected by Russian radar.
Yeah.
Because, then it's like, oh, fuck, man. Because, again,
that guy
you might
had
not,
a point, but they got rid of him.
That's the thing, though, is you might not be able to build a complete aircraft out of cardboard to be undetectable, right? But you could build a little-ass drone that could carry a hand grenade, and fuck, if you can't see it coming, well...
You need a lot of ducks in a row for a fucking cardboard drone to last. Though.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
Don't forget, in World War II, we were trying to make an aircraft carrier out of wood.
That's true.
Of pyrite. Can you imagine being one of those guys in the meeting when they're showing off pyrite? Because all it is just wood pulp, and then you freeze it, and then it becomes stronger than steel, or some shit like that. And the guy brought out a block, and they're going, see, this is pyrite, it's strong. Pulls out a gun, shoots it. It bounces off the thing, hits one of the board directors, and it was like,
yes, let's build a fucking aircraft carrier out of this. Fuck, man. That's pretty smart.
it didn't work, though.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're kind of, I think, transitioning to 1950s and 60s and shit.
Yeah.
When shit really gets heavy, because I think at this point...
If we go any further than that, I want to say, though, we still have the other one that we didn't talk about.
What?
And that's Shinobi's.
Oh, ninja?
Yeah.
From, like, the ancient Japan, the feudal Japan times?
All the way to the Meiji period.
I mean, shit, those were basically,
Well, that's what the word means.
Yeah.
Shinobi ninja is their word for spy.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's true.
Nin is stealth, and jutsu is science or technique or art. So ninjutsu was the study of stealth. So, and a shinobi is a practitioner of that technique. So, yeah, shinobi and what's the word? Kunoichis were used specifically for espionage and sabotage. Honestly, it was, oddly enough, assassination was like at the bottom of that list.
That is funny.
Their main purpose was espionage and sabotage, which probably was more beneficial than assassination. Because if you disrupt the fucking, like, the siege engines and shit, that's more beneficial than, oh man, our general died. All right, we got 6 more to replace him.
Yeah. Slight tangent, but what if something happens? Like, you were trying to do a mission or something, like you have somebody that's a double agent, right?
Yeah.
And they're supposed to be feeding information, but also possibly destroy some building or whatever the fuck it is. And they don't do that thing. But you still need that fucker to be in that place because he's far more valuable within that system to keep gathering information. Like, that's kind of like an interesting situation where you have to evaluate, like,
what's more valuable.
Yeah.
That's true. Because if their value is in blowing up the building and they didn't do it, oh, then fucking get rid of them. But if that was a subset or a secondary thing that they were valuable for, then it's like, fuck, well.
Because I feel like the information is probably...
Like that one guy...
takes priority over a lot of things.
I forgot what his name was, where they picked him up and says, hey, we have a spy within our... It was like the Congress, whatever, Congress or the Senate or some shit. There's a spy feeding Russian information. Find him. He goes, all right. He was actually the spy doing it.
Damn.
And so he's like, he had 2 choices. Continue his operation or get the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
I think he chose to keep doing it and they finally caught him.
Yeah.
I was like, can you imagine that shit? Be like, oh shit, they know I'm here. But they put me in charge of finding me. Sick.
Damn, you could
so
just...
then we could do a witch hunt.
Yeah, and then you could plant so much fucking evidence on everybody else and frame everyone else. Yeah. Damn, man.
But going back to that whole thing, like, I don't know why, it reminded me of Matt TV. There was a sketch with Key and Peele back before they were famous. And, like, he's like, it shows him being an American dad, whatever, giving his kids, he goes, all right, kids, do all this stuff. He goes, like, ding dong, he goes out the door, and you see the other guy's, like, in full Muslim garb. He goes, brother, it is time. Like, he was a super agent. He goes, I'll be right back, honey. He goes, oh, brother, like, they're talking to all their jihad shit. Like, he's like, okay, it is time that we use the suicide vest. He goes, yeah, and like, basically, he got honeypot to like him.
Yeah.
That's fucking hilarious.
Shit. So
we were transitioning into like the 50s and 60s. You were saying that was,
or I guess we're still, after the World War II or whatever. Because now, Russia at some point developed the Tu-4 airplanes, which were capable, I think, of dropping nuclear bombs. Because then the U.S. found out that the Russians had nuclear capabilities, but we didn't know the full extent of the country itself and what they were capable of. So we created the U-2 spy plane because for I guess what it was capable.
Huh?
Water.
Where?
You're on the flag.
There's water?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Or is it glue? I don't know.
Looks like glue.
Yeah, it looks like glue. Touch it.
You touch it.
Well, I can't reach. I'm too short.
That's glue.
Is it
wet?
It looks wet?
It's wet.
It's wet.
Yeah, it's water.
From where?
Did you? Is it like leaking from your roof or?
I don't see anything else on the fucking rest of it. I just see it in that one little spot, though.
Yeah.
Did you
You
like?
think something flinged up, like it flung up from like?
Spit on here?
Huh?
I think I may have splashed it because I went like.
Oh, with your hands when you were doing
maybe.
the.
But I don't know if it got that high. I don't know.
That's crazy. You know who would probably know? The CIA.
Yeah.
We could ask them to replay the tape.
Yeah. Replay the tape.
Of the internal surveillance and be like, hey, what happened here?
Yeah.
You have those dark spots right there, but what makes me think, oh shit, is that a leak? But no, like all across, that's probably just dirt.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I guess we'll find out later.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. So the U.S. created the U-2 plane because it could fly 80,000 feet above like intercontinental ballistic missiles or ICBMs. Yeah. So the Russians didn't have anything capable
of
shooting a missile that high to take that thing down, and it also was equipped with a very large Polaroid camera. So Polaroid had their hand in the Cold War, allowing the U.S. to gather intel for the U.S. to take images of everything that was going on in Russia, like basically mapping it out and figuring out where their nuclear plants were and where they were operating stuff.
You know what's funny too is we've talked about this before, but about civilian technology that got its start as military applications of the technology. And I mean that very well. The modern HD photo cameras that we have and the video cameras likely got their initial starts.
Like you mean panoramic?
Yeah, like that type of like super high resolution shit. Likely got its start likely got initially invested in as a military technology, and then Polaroid was like, hey, you know what? This thing can take photos from space, but shit, it also takes a really good picture when we're down here, just of like whatever.
Yeah,
and that's probably, and then they applied it to their civilian side technology, and shit, there we go. Now we get modern, photography or whatever, or the beginnings of it, I guess. So it's interesting to see that. Like, yeah, that's where it got started, was as a Polaroid camera in a U-2 spy plane at fucking 80,000 feet or whatever was its purpose, and then it got eventually turned into some sort of civilian fucking technology or whatever.
Right. And then in the later years, I think things kind of transitioned to proxy wars, things taking place in Central and South America, Africa, to try to, for each country to extend their influence in other spheres of the world, I suppose.
Yeah.
So there was the Cubans who eventually, somebody like Fidel Castro ended up overthrowing and kicking out Americans and stuff.
Yeah.
And that included mobsters, which was kind of funny because at some point when the U.S. government wanted Fidel Castro assassinated, the U.S. government reached out to mobsters to put a hit on Fidel Castro because, I mean, they were trying everything to try to get this guy assassinated.
Yeah.
But I found that rather interesting is that, the U.S. government has had their hand in taking down mobsters and shit, like Al Capone and all those guys. But now they're like the enemy that you didn't know was going to become an ally down the road. Like it's fucking great.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's the whole Cuban Missile, the Bay of Pigs, and Cuban Missile Crisis, and all that stuff. And I want to expand upon it, but I have vague recollections of it. Because I think what comes to mind logically off the top of my head is that, yes, the Russians got one over on us by having some piece of land or a territory that they can immediately plant nuclear missiles directly at the U.S. because ICBMs were created. So they were right over, just outside of Florida, right?
Yeah, just down the way.
So that's not something that we personally like or wanted. So, we tried to do everything in our power to try to make that go away. Because, wasn't Turkey one of our countries that we were using to plant missiles and, strategically?
Yeah, there was a lot of places on the Eastern European side that we were using to plant missiles and to fucking, do all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
To strategically place, and that's why they wanted to put it right at our door, because Cuba was the closest fucking thing that they had. There were really no other options for them to put shit at. That was the only choice. If you wanted to put it right at our door, just like we had shit right at their door, well, that's what you got to do. You got to go to Cuba.
So do you remember anything specifically about the Bay of Pigs so we can kind of get more elaborate on this topic?
Yeah, so sort of. So from my recollection, the Bay of Pigs was essentially our. I forget what they were called, but there was a group that the CIA was funding, essentially, that was the anti-communist group out of Cuba. And the Bay of Pigs was essentially them trying to, kind of invade the country and take it over, to overthrow the government. And it failed horribly, from what I remember.
Yeah, so it was a bunch of Cuban exiles, and and we basically funded them and told them, take this fucker over. And, yeah.
And so that was what ended up happening, was they ended up getting their asses whipped.
Yeah.
And the invasion was completely repelled. And that was the end of it. It was a failure. It was a complete failure. But that's an example of us utilizing a resource that's not ours. It's not us. We're not committing our lives or sacrificing our lives necessarily for that. We're taking people that were already pissed off and had a reason to fight, paying them and saying, hey, here's all these guns and grenades and ammo. Yeah, you guys should really do something about this. Here's some money. Go have at it. And then they go, and then, they all get slaughtered. So,
I think, ultimately the benefit for the people that would participate in any U.S. activities, right, would mean that those surviving people would become installed as the new power for the government itself, right? But I was thinking, man, I don't know how effective that shit's been, because we've only created so many more enemies out of these efforts.
There are plenty of places that we've done that exact thing to and that were successful, but then turned into an enemy. Honestly, the Taliban is a prime example of that. We funded and armed the Taliban to fight the Russians in the 70s and 80s when the Russians were invading Afghanistan in there. And by doing that, we helped them. We were buddies. And then over time, we eventually turned into an enemy. And, we funded them. We gave them all the training. We gave them the know-how. We gave them all the weapons. And here they go. So it's interesting to see how that dynamic works, because you get some countries that we do that too. And yes, they're a good ally, because those guys learned, hey man, America helped us out. We're going to maintain some sort of international loyalty to America. Not only just to keep the money flowing, because that's a big interest, right? That's a big part of it. You're a newly organized government that just overthrew your communist or dictatorship type government.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you need to keep going? You need money to keep everything going. So obviously if you were backed by the U.S., the U.S. has a vested interest in keeping you in power. And there are plenty of countries where we've funded the government to not oppress, but to repel. The same thing like the Russians would do to in that instance. Yeah. The Russians would fund the opposition side, and we would be promoting and funding the government side to repel the rebellion, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So, what the fuck was so funny? Why are you laughing at me?
Oh no, because that subject about the CIA trying to come up with all these wild ideas of how to kill people, how to influence them. I was thinking like, what would be like the worst ideas for how to kill somebody? I was like, guys, we need to make a pizza where the pepperonis have arsenic in them, like, and then we'll deliver it to the fucking these diplomats. Like,
no, you guys, I got it. All right, we take the elevator. All right, and we know what floor the guy lives on. So then we have it rigged so that anytime that number 5 gets pushed, the elevator just the floor just falls out and like they just fucking die.
Yeah.
Like eventually we're gonna kill a lot of people, but eventually we'll get him. We'll get the guy we're looking for.
Yeah. So I wonder how many times. Okay, because there's like a finite amount of money. I would say virtually limitless for our military. But so where would the CIA fall in that? Like, are they considered part of?
They're considered a branch of like the federal government. They're part of the Department of Defense. Well, now they're part of the Homeland Security, I guess. But I would say that the CIA has been kind of its own thing, and yes, they do receive a budget from the government, but then they also have the black budget, which is, them conducting international arms dealership sales and fucking whatever the hell else they're doing that is expensive, but they need to fund it somehow, so that's where they make this black budget money, and they make it on their own.
Yeah, because like how many times are you going to give something a chance before you just move on? Like the whole cat thing.
Yeah, right.
Or like, because I feel like you need to try something at least for who the fuck knows, maybe 2 or 3 years to find out if something's
If it works, yeah.
Yeah, because and there's only so much money that you can use before you're gonna run out and not be able to test different things out. But yeah, I don't know, man. Just the idea of coming up with different ways to like, oops, I farted. To influence people or to find out how to assassinate them without anybody finding out. Because there's been different cases like that guy, that Russian dude that was like the opposition leader against Putin.
Yeah.
That he got poked with some kind of umbrella.
Yeah, the radioactive umbrella.
Like the very tip of it would get stabbed.
Yeah.
And then this guy like was fucking dying and puking and.
Yeah, it gives you like instant radiation poisoning, and there's no recovery from it. You're gonna die. Like, it takes it like a week or so, but
he lived, but I actually don't know what happened to him. I know he was kind of being held as a political prisoner or something like that.
I'm sure he fell out of a window. That's the other
meme of it.
The other Russian favorite. It's radioactive umbrella tips and people falling out of windows. They're like when that happens. When that happens, it's like, oh yeah, they got assassinated by the Russian.
Yeah, he fell out a window.
Or what are they called now? The FSB? Is that what they're called now? I think. Kremlin? No, the Kremlin's like the name of the government building.
Our Congress.
Yeah. Well, anyways, so what else was I saying? Okay, so we're on the Cold War now, right?
Yeah, so I mean, we have like the Korean War and the Vietnamese, or the Vietnam War, and all these places where, it's kind of like a hotbed for East versus West in terms of our influence and shit. So I don't know if you get the idea.
Well, literally, Korea and Vietnam were basically us versus the communists. That's the whole reason why we entered those wars, was to stop the spread of communism. Mm-hmm. And obviously, in the Korean War, we demarcated a line and said, all right, fine, you communists can have this part, and that's the end of it. Vietnam, eventually we were there and then we left, but eventually the communists were no more. So, I mean, because Vietnam's not a communist country today, but just like, Russia's not communist today, even though, eventually, I guess that's the lesson, is eventually all communism fails over time.
So are we all out of topics for espionage, or does Frank have more to elaborate with the Japanese,
with the ninja,
and the shinobis,
and the shinobis? No, that's it. All right. Well, we cleared an hour, so pretty good with that.
You did?
Yeah, we were an hour and 10 minutes.
Oh my days.
Oh my jeebus.
All right, so now we need to start running our own splinter operation and
our own CIA.
We need somebody to we need to put a plant in Domino's Pizza so we can get a 35% discount on our pizzas.
I think that already exists.
Should we just not? Just kill ourselves instead of eating Domino's?
Can we what? Kill ourselves and then eat Domino's?
Instead of getting Domino's, can we just kill ourselves? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Oh, instead.
So you're saying you'd rather kill yourself than eat Domino's pizza?
I'm won't lie, they recommend that, but every time I eat it, I get diarrhea.
Okay, what sort of pizza should we subvert to get free or discounted pizza?
Papa John's?
Oh, Papa John's? No, really, we need to get Lamppost pizza.
Lamppost.
Exist outside the guy even.
Yeah, but who cares? Either way, Lamppost is still excellent.
Yeah, we need to sell. We need to sell.
We need to create we need an agent to infiltrate
the pizza industry.
Yeah, specifically Lamppost pizza.
So we can get the secret ingredients and build our own pizzas without having to pay $40.
We could build our own pizzas and then sell them for less.
Yeah.
Sell them for a reasonable price.
Get ready, folks. Game Rage Pizza.
Yep. No, it's just be called Game Rage the Pizza Shop.
Yeah, Game Rage, and we'll find out the secret recipe for Monsters so we can sell it at
yeah.
half the price. We're going to sell it as Arizona prices.
Yeah.
Arizona iced
99 cents a fucking can. 99 cents a tall can. Game Rage energy drink.
Hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah. That's what it should be called. Hell yeah, brother, the energy drink.
Hell yeah, yeah, with the knockoff fucking Macho Man Randy Savage dude.
Oh yeah, that'd be dope as shit. Oh man. Anyways, all right. Well, I think that pretty much wraps it up. So, fucking if actually, give me your microphone real quick.
Why is that?
I got to do this on this side here. Scoot over.
All right.
So Game Rage magazine on Instagram and TikTok, and Game Rage mag on Twitter and X. And we thank you. We appreciate you for listening to us. And I guess that's pretty much it. So check us on the next one.
Don't give your balls a tug, you tit fucker.
That was the latest episode of the Central Unintelligence Podcast. Don't forget, subscribe and like on Instagram and TikTok at Game Rage Magazine. We're also on Twitter/X at Game Rage Mag. Also our website, www.GameRageMagazine.com.